Like there's a lot of free things we can do that could be exponential with your health. Amazing free biohacks, getting out in the sun, grounding, putting your feet on the earth, aligning your circadian rhythm, fasting. Like Lauren said, are you getting outside like a normal human being before spending all this money on the gadgets?
Can we choose something that's going to really move the needle on a lot of things or have like a really good bang for your buck?
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Thick Thighs Save Lives podcast. I'm Rachel, and I have some super amazing babes with me today. I have the Biohacker Babes, who are Renee and Lauren, and they are going to give us some amazing insight as to some biohacking basics that you can include in your life. Welcome, girls.
Thanks for having us.
For having us.
It's so nice to have other sisters in the podcast. It's like when I heard you guys as sisters, I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah. I know. This is so fun.
Isn't it amazing to just like get to talk to each other each week and just like connect on things you both feel passionate about?
It's the best. It's absolutely the best. She's the best business partner. Couldn't ask for another one. Just super lucky to have a sisters. I'm sure you feel the same. It's really special.
Yes, I am missing my other half today. Kelsey is at her 20-week scan. So our girls know about her pregnancy and we're very excited for her. But I want to get you guys, introduced to our audience because you have some incredible backgrounds into how you got into this field. And it's just super, super interesting to me. So I want to let you guys tell your story. But first, I want to just give a little background. Renee is a certified nutritional consultant and a holistic lifestyle coach. You've got a master's in nutrition. And Lauren is a former or current Broadway performer?
I'm going to say former, but I still go back intermittently.
I read somewhere on your bio that you had performed in Wicked recently or somewhat recently, and that is just like the most amazing show. So fangirl.
Yeah. I was for a very long time, and then I stopped, and now I'm kind of just dabbling, but it's
good girl. Good for you. Also a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, and you're an exercise coach and microdosing prep and integration coach. So you guys have some really, really interesting specialties that I want to let you get into. But can you guys first tell me how you arrived in the health and fitness space? Because I know you struggled through some of your own health issues with, that were really disrupting your lives, and it kind of led you into this field. So can you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. I would say it's part our upbringing. We kind of grew up in a health-driven family. So our dad is a biological dentist, which for your audience, if they don't know, biological dentists specialize in safe mercury amalgam fillings. They practice holistic dentistry, so nothing foreign really goes into the body. Make sure it's compatible. We look at infections and airways. It's just like a whole other category of dentistry that is becoming more popular, but for most people is not known. Our mother works currently for my dad. She's a dental hygienist. And so we did kind of grow up in a health-driven family. My dad, we call him the OG biohacker, and he was doing biohacking, in the 80s in our living room, and we didn't know what it was, but we were exposed at a really young age. And then the other part of it is like our own health challenges. So we both went through different journeys, but through the challenges and symptoms and problems that we faced, we had this curiosity mindset where we wanted to find other solutions that were not offered to us through conventional medicine. So we both went down that path and have really just sort of expanded our toolbox and found out-of-the-box solutions, alternative and holistic, and now the biohacking, which has really supported our physiology. And I know Renee can color in that story, but I would say it's kind of two-part in how we got here.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think both of us, one of the biggest takeaways we experienced through our health journey was just learning how different everyone is. And traditional medicine is great for certain things for sure, but they don't address the bio-individual component of medicine, which is really, really missing. And so like for me, traditional medicine was like, okay, you have chronic fatigue syndrome. You just need to sleep more. Like that was the only diagnosis. That was the only answer. There was like no more than that. And so that led me down this path of like looking at all the different biohacks, all the different holistic health remedies. And even like Lauren and I being sisters, it's amazing to see how certain biohacks work for me and don't work for her, and vice versa. Like we're genetically super similar and we still have to biohack differently. So then you start looking at different genders, different ages, hormones, gut microbiome, genetics. Like there are so many factors that are going to steer you in a different direction on your biohacking journey. So just like the individuality is just super, super fascinating to me.
Two things that you said there that really caught my eye. First of all, being diagnosed with chronic anything syndrome is always to me like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. So chronic meaning like I'm going to have this forever, like forever. And then syndrome meaning like you don't really know why.
Yeah. That term is actually, all it means is that you've been tired for more than 6 months and it hasn't been relieved by sleep. That's
so
all
like
that
that's
means.
not a diagnosis though. That I told you that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's kind of like fibromyalgia. It's like we don't really know what's going on, so we're just going to call it that. I mean, there's a lot of diagnoses that are like that. They don't know. They don't know, and I don't blame them because there's a lot to unpack there.
And it's so frustrating from the point of, someone receiving that diagnosis. And I know that a lot of women listening are like, I've received a diagnosis like that, where it's like, we don't really know why, and we don't really know when this is going to end. And so, as, a human being, that is just so incredibly frustrating. And the other thing that you hit on is, the bio individuality, even you and your sister. I love that you said that. And so much of health and fitness has really been like this is the best. This is the one size fits all. And that kind of leads me into my next question, because I think that, when people are getting into the space, there's a lot of argument over experts over what is the best way to exercise, the best diet right now, the best, like my friend lost, this weight, or my friend addressed her menopause with this. And it's the best, right? And I just wanted to talk to you guys about, how do we start to convince ourselves that the one size fits all for wellness maybe just isn't it?
I think a lot of us have lived that already, that the one size fits all doesn't work. It's like, how many of us have tried a diet because someone said that it was amazing and worked, and it didn't? Maybe it did temporarily, but certainly not long term. We've all experienced that in some form or fashion through nutrition or exercise or sleep. And so I don't know, do we need convincing beyond that? It's like, we're just all so bio individual. And I think it's also that we're missing a lot of really big pieces in terms of healing. Our bodies are naturally healing machines. They are adaptation machines. They are designed to heal and to thrive, but there's a lot of shit that gets in the way in terms of environment, our inputs from nutrition, from environmental sources, from poor mindset. Like there's a lot of stuff we have to kind of clear, debris that's in the way. And then, yes, we have to address the bio individual and test it, like make sure it works for us. A lot of people aren't looking at that feedback that we get from not only our own bodies, but what we can also get from wearables if you choose to use a wearable. There's a lot of ways to get feedback, and people aren't using the feedback. So not only did it probably not work for you, but you also didn't even do it long enough or look at the feedback to see like why and where do I look next. There's so much information, but a lot of us, I think, are not even patient enough to go there. It requires some patience.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point, is testing and measuring and collecting data. And that's a huge part of biohacking, right? We're assessing, addressing, seeing if it works. And I think a really good example of this is there was a new sleep supplement on the market. All the biohackers were taking it, and a lot of them were raving about it. Oh my gosh, my deep sleep is up. My HRV is up. This is amazing. Lauren and I both took it and we didn't feel anything. And then we looked at our data and we were like, oh my gosh, our HRV is actually declining every night that we take this supplement. Perfect example of don't just follow what someone else is doing and look at your data, because in the short term, you can see some changes in your data that you maybe wouldn't feel for a long term. So immediately, like 7 days later, we were like, done. Who wants the supplement? Clearly isn't working for my body. And that was the Aura Ring, just as an example of something you can track with. So pretty cool to see.
That's really interesting. I mean, like you guys said, not surprising with the, what we know about all the individuality that goes into, our genetics and our lifestyles and all of the things. But also just like even in the field that you guys are in, having people tell, these, and it's amazing when something works for someone and they want to shout it from the rooftops, and why not? Because if it could help someone else, right? But like also just always having that caveat of like, that worked for them. And there's nothing wrong with me. I'm not broken if it doesn't work for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Exactly.
Huge distinction. Yeah.
So when people are first introduced to the world of biohacking, a really common response is like stress and overwhelm, right? Because there's so many nuances, there's so many options, there's so many products. And they all are claiming to be the one. And so how do you guys help clients kind of ease some of their anxiety when their world is open to all of the options in ways that you can feel better, but like you still got to go to work and shit?
Yeah, you can't just biohack all day.
Busy. Yeah, we could be very busy doing all the biohacking tech all day long. I mean, the checklist will be endless, but this comes back to the bio individuality. It's like, what does your body need and want? What is your physiology asking for? So step one is getting to know your body and what it needs. And so we always say, like, one of the greatest biohacks first is just getting quiet, like listening to your body, which a lot of us don't know how to do, right? We're super busy and there's no time to sit quiet. And even if you do, it's quite uncomfortable, right? So that's the first thing, getting to know the bio individual, because that makes the checklist so much easier. It's like, you don't need 100 biohacks. Let's figure out what's going to support your physiology the best. And a lot of the tech, and I think we're specifically talking about tech, like things you can buy and like engage with. One, can be expensive, and two, it takes up your day. But the goal behind all of them is creating more efficiency and harnessing the power of nature. So something like red light therapy, it's just trying to harness the healing frequencies of the sun. So if you're someone that can't get outside, which is the optimal choice, to be outside in the sunshine, in a good relationship with the sun, right? Not burning our skin or our retina, but getting good exposure to vitamin D and setting your circadian rhythm. If you can't do that, red light is a really great technology that's going to create more efficiency and help you to get that. But we don't jump right to the tech. We go like, what's the issue? What's the need? Now, what's the lifestyle? What's getting in the way of that? Can we use this to create more efficiency in your day? So really, like, I think we're quite minimalist in our biohacking. Like, we love the tech and it's fun and like it's such a playground. But at the end of the day, it's like, we don't need more stuff. We don't need more things to do in our day. So can we really create a minimal or minimum effective dose with this stuff? So like entry level, again, is like getting to know the individual. And then there's like cost, like figure out what they're willing to invest in. But can we choose something that's going to really move the needle on a lot of things or have like a really good bang for your buck? You don't need all the things.
Yeah. And we like to say basics before biohacks, right? Like, like Lauren said, are you getting outside like a normal human being before spending all this money on the gadgets? But amazing free biohacks, getting out in the sun, grounding, putting your feet on the earth, aligning your circadian rhythm, fasting. Like, there's a lot of free things we can do that could be exponential with your health. And then figuring out what gadgets work for you. So Lauren and I like to say we're like the test dummies. We try and test all the things. And I know you guys have been testing some different gadgets and you reported back. I listened to your red light therapy episode. Mm-hmm. So we try and do that as well. It's like, hey, this is the product, pros, cons, here's the price. Do you need it? Do you not need it? And we try and break that down. And I don't expect anyone else to test as much as we're testing. So we're the guinea pigs for you, so we can then dispel that information. For me, like a PEMF with a brain tap 30-minute session in the afternoon, game changer for me. I'm like a new person when I come off that mat in the afternoon. Some people don't even feel anything, and that's okay. So again, just leaning into really what you need. But I think the free biohacks are a great place to start. Like don't skip that stuff. And
Yeah.
then and I think a lot of people complain like I don't have the time, I don't have the money. I'd say really pick what's the tight thing here. If you're really tight on time, then maybe you do invest in more of these gadgets that can be more efficient. When it comes to working out, there's things like the ARX machine and the Carol bike. If you're really tight on time, put the money towards the efficiencies. If you're tight on money, maybe you lean into spending more time in nature and doing the free biohacks. So I think figure out what really works for your schedule.
I love that you are, highlighting that basics before biohacking. I just, coming back to something you guys said before about the amount of people that have truly lost touch with like their bodies kind of and are not noticing things that maybe are sort of underlying that will become screams but are right now are whispers. And I just wanted to kind of dive into something that was brought up about sort of sitting in mindfulness in your body, because so often if we're sitting somewhere it's like, where's my phone, where's my phone, where's my phone, like I could be productive right now. Do you have any tips if someone feels maybe that they've lost track of what their body's kind of giving them for feedback? Do you have any tricks to like just start on that road of listening?
Yeah, I always think like
Yeah.
having bookends to your day, like don't pick up your phone first thing in the morning. And hopefully there's like a window of time before you go to bed that's not data outside of yourself, like just kind of pillowing beginning and end of the day. It really depends on the individual. Like I respond really well to putting my phone in do not disturb because if I have notifications, I'm gonna look. If I don't have notifications, it's like, oh, out of sight, out of mind a little bit. Sure, we're all like dopamine addicted and are gonna want to look at our phone. But without the notifications, I think that's huge. Um, there's so many levels that we could drop into. And because you mentioned that I'm a microdosing certified coach, like that's always an option because mushrooms really slow us down and they also like turn up the volume on our subconscious. So for someone that is really conditioned to not be listening to those signals from the body, and I'll just give an example, like a client that kind of can't sit still and is anxious and just very uncomfortable, like being still. That's the body trying to distract itself from being with self. So we could potentially use something because you can't just tell someone like sit still, like meditate. That doesn't work for people, right?
Yeah.
You gotta like person where
So many ADHD diagnoses as well. Like
yeah,
you can't really just use that phrase.
right.
Yeah.
I mean, that could be a whole rabbit hole, like ADHD. I mean, we got to look at your environment. Like, what toxins or stressors are we coming in that are disrupting your gut brain access, like hijacking the brain? There's a lot. There's a lot there. Microdosing is just an option for some people where the mushrooms can really ground us, turn up the volume on our subconscious, and then like listening to the body becomes so much easier. And I have a mentor that actually is very against wearables, which is interesting because we're so into it. But he's like, no, your body gives you that feedback. You shouldn't need data to do it. But the problem is, most of us don't know how to listen. So it's like, know the individual, use it when it's needed. But just to come back to the microdosing, that could be a way for someone to kind of drop in and reconnect to their intuition and get that feedback. And then you start getting this communication. It's like, oh, my body needs this. Oh, this is important to me. Oh, that's why I was responding this way. And with that information, we can make a different choice. And there's like a softening, right? How many people are dealing with anxiety these days? We just need to like sit and breathe. But again, you can't say that. We got to like find another way in. Yeah. So
Yeah.
there's lots of options.
Yeah. And I have to ditto the plant medicine if people are open to it. For me, like doing a higher dose of mushrooms, I experienced exactly that. It made me sit and be still. And I didn't realize until that moment that I didn't enjoy just sitting with myself. And so that kind of showed me, it was like, oh, you need to work on this. And so it's been a journey, like doing one journey, it doesn't just end there. right? It usually teaches you something or exposes something, creates this awareness, and then you have to figure out how to intertwine that and integrate it into your life. So that was one experience. And then another thing, I was microdosing LSD for a while. And the biggest takeaway was I couldn't multitask when I was doing that. And I was like, oh man, I am such a multitasker. Because I would go through the day doing like my normal thing. And I was like, oh my gosh, my brain doesn't want me to do this. And so on the days where I would microdose, I would do one thing at a time, one thing at a time. And I got so much more done in those days. I was way more productive. But I always thought like multitasking is the way to go.
Yeah.
Totally wrong. Yeah.
Oh, that is so interesting. And I'm really glad, you said I'm going to hop into the microdosing question. I'm just going to skip right to it because you guys are mentioning, and I know that, it's going to create some buzz of like, our listeners wondering, but I'm so glad that you said, about the individuality of like, say, wearables and all of it is I have experienced this myself, where I just can't wear a wearable because the feedback just stresses me out. Like I can't know that I didn't have a good night's sleep. I have to know, but like I can't know because it like throws. Like, it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like then I'm gonna have a bad day because my wearable said I'm gonna have a bad day. So I'm really glad you said that. I want to ask you, Lauren. You are the specialist in the field of microdosing. It's a mental health hack that we're seeing really gain some traction right now. But I think it's pretty misunderstood, or just we don't have enough information yet from like real professionals in this area. Can you talk about, first of all, what it is and how you recommend it to your clients, maybe in place of a traditional pharmaceutical?
Yes. Okay. I'm going to try to stay organized in my brain. One, I just really quickly wanted to address like the bio individuality of the wearables. Like this is one of the biggest difference between Renee and I. We both have Oura rings. I do not check mine in the morning because I will have a bad day if it's bad news. She checks it every morning, does not affect her mindset at all. So it's just like knowing yourself, right? And you've made that choice. Like I'm not going to go down.
That's a really good hack, though. Not check it like check it at the end, and then it can't really have that effect. You're going to go to bed anyways, but you still have that feedback. I've never actually thought of that. That's really interesting. I'm glad you said that. I might give it a whirl.
Yeah.
In some ways,
But then,
I want to work through this like psychology of this, but I just know it doesn't work for me. So at the time, I'm like, I don't check it.
yeah, but then for me, on the other end of the spectrum, if it is a bad score, then I know, okay, today's a day to like, not do a lot of caffeine. Maybe I increase my NAD and creatine. Maybe I definitely get my meditation PEMF session in. Like for me, I'll prioritize my schedule around that bad score. And then if it's a good score, I'm like, okay, high intensity interval training. We're lifting heavy weights today. Maybe I can have an extra shot of espresso. I don't know. Just like I kind of lean into which way it goes, but I totally understand that's not for everyone.
I love that. I love the like taking action based on the score and not so much focusing on like, well, what can't be for this day, but what needs to happen instead. That's just a really good mindset. Like it's a shift in mindset that I love.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what it's designed to do, right? Like empower you to take action for sure. Yeah. So in terms of mindset, like microdosing, I guess to explain what microdosing is, it is taking very small subperceptual, meaning you shouldn't feel it, subperceptual doses of a plant. And I work with mushrooms, so psilocybin specifically, which is largely illegal. Just going to put that out there. You're taking it through a very specific structured protocol over a specific window of time with a very clear intention. And generally, like the intention, we center it around like a curiosity or a why or like an essence or a feeling that you want to capture. Not necessarily a goal because we never know the path that it's going to take us on. It's going to really kind of open some doors and show us the way. And so microdosing works is it really amplifies and it reveals. It doesn't do the work for us. So that's the big distinction between plants and then conventional medications, which are largely synthetic, which need to be taken for an infinite amount of time, potentially, because they're not going to show us the work. They're not going to do the work for us. Neither are the plants, but the plants present an opportunity to show us things, to give us information so that we can make new habits, new patterns, new choices. So there's something in the plant medicine microdosing world called the default mode network. So essentially, in layman's terms, we are able to create new neural pathways by being really present. And so this should be used short term. Some people will use it for an extended period of time, though we always want to rinse and repeat because we can build up a tolerance to this. So we want to be very measured in like the length of time and the frequency. I think the other important thing to know is that there is not just one type of mushroom. There are hundreds of species of psychedelic mushrooms, and they all hold energetic qualities. They are from the earth. There is a mycelial network that is much larger than us under the ground that is communicating and firing. And so we want to be really particular in the type of energy that we're consuming because, for example, if you are dealing with a more depressed state, so depression, of course, is like a huge reason why people microdose. If you choose a mushroom that is very grounding and into the earth, and you're already like a very depressed, low mood, we're just going to compound that feeling. So oftentimes we want to match the blend with where we want to go. So for these individuals that are more depressed, we want something that's a little more uplifting, action oriented, forward moving. And so that's a really big piece I think people overlook and get wrong is that we're not choosing the right blend or strain. And then also the intention setting, which is really where we make magic because this stuff, it's not going to do the work for you. We have to show up and interact with it. Huge distinction from like conventional mental health meds.
Wow, that's really okay. I have a couple of follow-up questions because first of all, where are we getting this? Where are we buying? Like, is it like meat on the corner, like type of thing, or like what's happening? Where are we getting our microdose mushrooms?
I'm just kidding.
You know a guy who knows a guy, and like
there are some brave companies and people, groups of people that are willing to hand grow this, encapsulate it, sell it as a nutraceutical. So typically it will come with other functional mushrooms, which would be like a lion's mane, chaga, cordyceps, things that we know support neuroplasticity. And so it's kind of labeled as a vitamin. So we can source and vet out these companies that are doing it safely and growing it well, because like growing it organically and making sure the soil is clean is really important because we're affecting our mental faculties. So we want to be just like food, be very cautious about how we're consuming. So it's out there and we could share resources offline, but there's a lot.
Sure, I know you can't tell who your guys are and stuff,
No,
but like
I work for a company called Mycology Psychology. So we're a network of practitioners, and we can share resources to access medicine if it's the right fit for you. And we do a screening call to make sure there are no contraindications or some big sort of red flag categories that we want to avoid. Right. And also, it's like the very specific and strategic recommendations of, again, the strain, the way that we'll dose it, the length of time. So there's a lot kind of involved in that puzzle.
Absolutely. Okay. I'm glad you gave us some insight there. So, you know, someone could get in touch with you if they wanted to explore this.
Sure.
And one more thing about the neural pathways. I know that there's been so much research coming up about how important that is to brain health and longevity, is, you know, building these new neural pathways. And I had never really heard about microdosing as a way to do this. Is this like an exercise for brain health that you would like, you know, to see go mainstream?
Yes and no. Like I'm quite conservative in a lot of my health advice. I think there's probably still potentially a lot we don't know, but I think the effects on neuroplasticity are pretty huge. But there's a lot of other ways we can support that. Exercise is one of the biggest ways to increase BDNF, which is essentially like brain fertilizer. So it's like, yeah, you could take mushrooms, but also you could exercise like right now.
Yeah. Or go in the sauna.
You can go in the sauna.
Does that too.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways we can enhance neuroplasticity, even just through the functional mushrooms, which you can get quite easily. You can get them at the grocery store, like a lion's mane. Yeah.
Quick interruption to this fabulous podcast to tell you about our Stay Wild collection, which has a special place in my heart.
Oh, if you are a Stay Wild child, there's something for everyone in this release. Personally, my favorite is obviously the colorful. That was my pattern. So I'm obsessed with the Animal Kingdom pattern. But there really is something for everyone because we've got those shadow wolves. Oh, for the badasses.
Honestly, if anyone could guess what my favorite pattern is, tell us in the comments because you might know that I have a tattoo of it. But this collection is amazing and drops this Friday. So go check it out, constantlyweargear.com.
Awesome. Okay, that was just really great. I want to ask you, Renee, about your work on circadian rhythms and their importance on overall health. I know we touched a little bit on the red light and, the sunlight exposure, but do you think many people are struggling unknowingly with their circadian rhythms? I mean, we know that there's sort of a sleep epidemic that is responsible for so much of the stress and anxiety that people are feeling on a regular basis, the heightened cortisol. What are some simple ways that we can kind of find out if we're having a problem in this area and then hack it?
Yeah, I think to start off, a lot of people are struggling with this and don't even have a clue. And we're going to see more and more research coming out in the next couple of years about circadian rhythm disorders being linked to all kinds of health issues. We're already seeing increased risk for cancer, especially prostate and breast cancer, skin cancer, melanoma, changes in the gut microbiome, changes in insulin resistance. So, talking about diabetes, obesity, metabolic disorders. We're already seeing all of this come out, and it's just going to be exponential, I think. And I know the stat is always changing, but the latest I've heard is, Americans are spending about 90 to 95% of their day indoors. And if you think about like human evolution, where we used to be outside all the time, even like at night, we were probably sleeping in a cave on the ground, like we were connected to the earth. It was dark, we were sleeping, the sun came up, we were up and about, we were out in the sun all day long. And now people are never doing that. And I mean, being inside, it's not just about the lighting. We're also dealing with indoor air pollution, all the chemicals in our furniture, our cleaning products, our beauty products. Like there's just a whole bucket of things there. But humans were designed to rise and fall with the sun, and we're just not doing that anymore. So how do we hack that? Number one, within 30 minutes of waking, get outside for even just 5 to 10 minutes if you can. No sunglasses on. I'm not saying like go sun gaze, don't like burn your eyeballs out, but just get outside. If you can go for a walk, if you can stand in your backyard, get your feet on the earth, connect back with the earth. Don't be on your phone because that's just giving you like artificial blue light when we're trying to get natural blue light. So that's number one is you're setting up the day. You're saying, hey, body and brain, it's morning. It's time to go. Let's increase our cortisol naturally rather than that shot of espresso. So that's the bookend in the morning. Midday at lunchtime, if you can, and this is if you're like really stuck inside working all day. I'm saying these are the minimums, 5 to 10 minutes in the morning. Midday when the sun is at its highest, if you can again get out for 5 to 10 minutes. I know it's super hot everywhere right now because the world is ending. No, I'm just kidding. But if you could just get out for a little bit, again, no sunglasses, try and tell yourself, hey, it's high noon. It's also a great time to get some vitamin D. We really like using the D-Minder app, free app. You can see based off of where you are in the world if you are getting vitamin D at the moment and how much vitamin D per minute you could possibly be getting. So skin exposure, get that vitamin D. And then bonus, if you can be outside during sunset, that's where we're getting that amber red light. It's very healing. It's again telling the brain we're going to start calming down for the night. And then at nighttime, ideally after sunset, we're not exposing ourselves to any light. I know it's 2024. That's a hard one. So hacks here. Pick a time to turn off all your electronics, maybe 9 o'clock, if that's reasonable for you. So enjoy your Netflix, your Instagram, whatever, till 9, and then say, okay, hard stop at 9 o'clock. The next thing is to put on some blue light blocking glasses. You can get these for pretty cheap. I put them on these are my daytime ones. These are more just because the computer is putting off a lot of blue light and I'm going to be on my computer a lot today. So it's more eye protection. But the nighttime ones are going to be more of like an orange or red amber color. And that's going to, again, help your brain to start producing melatonin to get ready for bed. Minimize overhead light exposure. We know that that seems to be more harmful at night, is if it's coming down from above versus if it's like more like desk level, maybe some candles around. So be mindful of that as well. Yeah, lots of things we can do there.
And I would just add, like, one, consistency is so major here. That's a big disruption to our circadian rhythm when we're kind of popcorning our daily schedule. An example, I was just talking to a friend last night that owns a bar, and he's like, this is my schedule. I have to be up late. And so even on the days when I'm not working, I'm not going to force myself to wake up early because that's actually worse. And he was like, right? And I was like, right.
Yeah.
Sometimes we just have to accept the lifestyle that we're in, and your body's going to respond better to consistency. So just leaning into that really hard. The second thing I wanted to mention is that a lot of people are going to go, well, I don't need to do those things at nighttime. I sleep fine. Maybe you sleep fine. Next thing I would go is like, well, maybe wear a wearable and see if that's really true, because we can gain a lot of these blind spots information if we actually look at the data. But two, maybe it's not affecting your sleep, but maybe there's actually something in your daytime that you're experiencing, like gut dysfunction or allergies, which tend to be a downstream expression of poor gut health. Or maybe you're having trouble waking up even though you slept really good. Or maybe you're having trouble with glucose dysregulation. You're getting like hyper or hypoglycemia and your energy is dropping in the middle of the day kind of randomly, or you're getting anxiety. Like, these are all symptoms that your circadian rhythm is not strong. So just because you can hit the pillow after watching Netflix with your phone this close to your face and sleep fine doesn't mean your circadian rhythm is optimal. And sure, you get to choose the journey and choose what kind of edits and adjustments you want to make, but just be curious. If there's something else that you're struggling with, come back and see if you do these sort of circadian rhythm optimizers, does it get better? It probably will.
I love that you said that. I hear from so many people that, are like, once my head hits the pillow, that's it. I'm out. So I don't need to stop caffeine after 4 p.m. I can have a cup of coffee right before I go to bed and still fall right asleep. And I'm like, there's this whole host of other issues that people think are not sleep related, that you're complaining of. I'm glad you brought up allergies. Like, those are not things that people typically will like associate with sleep. So it's just like, well, yeah, but I sleep fine, but I have these, this horrible anxiety. It's like, okay, but hold on.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad you brought that up. And I just have one more follow-up question. If you live in a hellscape where it's not actually the sun doesn't come out on many days.
You mean
I live in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
So if I'm going outside in the morning and I can't actually see the sun, it's like completely overcast and gray, am I still getting the benefits of like that light therapy?
Yeah, even with
Yes.
cloud cover, you're still getting UV rays that will penetrate through the
Okay.
clouds, but you often need to just spend a little bit more time. So on a sunny day, you'll get it in 10 to 15 minutes. If it's cloudy, kind of depending on how much cloud cover, you may need to increase that to 20, 25, maybe 30. So you will have to try a little bit harder, but don't look outside and go, it's cloudy, I might as well not. Like, no,
Yeah.
you should definitely still go out.
Yeah, I mean, everything's harder when you live in Massachusetts. So we're used to that.
Yeah.
It's just a hard
originally,
life.
I mean, Maryland, New York. Yeah.
Yep.
Feel your pain. I know. I'm so spoiled in Vegas. Like, it's actually cloudy here today for the first time in like a month. I'm like, ooh, clouds. Strange.
It's almost an exciting thing. Like, it's like,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. So I went outside this morning. I was like, oh, this feels different. But I would add, so this is actually a great example of when you maybe want a biohacking gadget on hand. So, I mean, a red light therapy device would be great, but then something called the human charger that we use, it looks like a little iPod with these little earbuds, and it shines bright light into your ears. So it signals to the brain in a similar way that the sun does. So that's a great hack. There's also something called the retimer glasses. They are like these spaceship looking alien glasses, but it's shining blue and green light into your eyes. That's another great hack in the morning. And then the last one would be like an SAD light. So if it's designed for seasonal affective disorder, but get one of those, put it like on your bathroom counter or your kitchen counter when you're getting ready in the morning, and that's shining that bright light into your eyes. So 3 extra biohacks if you need it.
That's awesome. I definitely have experience with the SAD light, and I can't say enough good things about it if, your climate is just not doing it for you. So you guys, I love the work that you've done in the areas of EMF and the excessive exposure that some of us, many of us, most of us are having on a daily basis, and how it could be affecting our bodies. And I wanted you guys to kind of highlight some of the common practices that people might not be thinking about when it comes to EMF exposure. I'm thinking specifically of charging your phone like on your nightstand right where you're sleeping, wireless headphones, microwaves, these things that are like really common practices that like might not even cross your mind that this might be exposure that is unwanted.
Yeah. Well, EMFs are everywhere, and there's native, so like the sun, the earth, and there's non-native. So we want to be careful about the non-natives. I'll just say like number one rule of thumb is distance is always your friend. Like, we're realists. We need technology. My job is on my computer and my phone. There's no way I can avoid these things. So choosing distance is always going to be really helpful. Because you mentioned charging, being on your computer or your phone while it's charging is worse than not. So great to charge it when you're not using it, and then unplug it when you are using it if you can. Like, mine's charging right now because it would die on this podcast if it wasn't charging. Wired headphones. So Bluetooth is, well, I don't know. Actually, it was like super trendy. People would look at us like we were crazy if we didn't have the Bluetooth ones. And we always joke like tangles are in forever, like the tangled wired headphones, because we don't want that Bluetooth radiation. But I think because of Gen Zers, it's becoming popular to do the wired ones again, which is kind of cool.
Oh, nice. We're back in.
We're back in.
It happens eventually. If you're here long enough, your styles come back in, and it's all one big circle.
Yeah,
if you're here long enough, but like we're mainly looking at like Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, which are everywhere. So we're just trying to reduce our exposure by turning those things off. If you can, turn your phone on airplane mode, keep it away from your body, particularly when you're sleeping. I have an interesting sort of like home for my phone that I can put it in while I'm sleeping that blocks the EMF, but still like distance, keep it away as much as possible. I know, Renee, you have some hacks like shutting off the Wi-Fi at night, plugging in your Ethernet cable. You want to jump in, Renee?
Yeah, I mean, those are great. Yeah, so right now I'm plugged into the wall, like old school. Like when my husband and I built this house, we were like, we need these in every room. And they were like, but you have Wi-Fi. I'm like, no. The less Wi-Fi I can use, the better. So I always try and plug in. That's a great one. Overnight, so when we're sleeping, especially in deep sleep, and the lymphatic system is really working to clean the brain out, that's cleaning out plaques, hopefully preventing dementia and Alzheimer's later in life. This is a super important process. And what we're seeing is that EMFs can disrupt this process. So again, when you're sleeping, you're more sensitive to EMFs. So that is the time to prioritize. Get everything out of your bedroom that you possibly can. You have a couple lights, maybe an alarm clock if you still have that, whatever. But put your cell phone like in your bathroom. If you need an alarm set, just crank up the volume. You'll hear it. So yeah, the distance is your friend. Never put anything on your body, like pockets, not for phones. Your bras, ladies, not for your cell phones, please.
That one kills me when you see the phone like right in the front, in between the boobs. No.
And people are often doing it when they're exercising. So it's like, these are health conscious people that are wanting to do the thing. And I see them running, down the street, and they got the phone tucked in the boobs. And I'm like, girl.
Yeah.
That's so bad.
Guys, it's like, let's take care of our testicles. Let's keep it down.
Yeah. So the testicles are more sensitive to EMFs because they are technically outside of the body. So yeah, so men, cell phones not in your pockets, and then laptops as well. I know they're called laptops, but a really good hack here is there are companies like Defender Shield, Bond Charge. I know you guys know of Bond Charge. They have created like blankets and things that you can put under your computer to protect yourselves, especially for the men. And even with the men, like 10 minutes of having a cell phone near that area, you see a drop in sperm count and sperm motility in 10 minutes, which also is going to drop your testosterone. So maybe that'll get men to stop doing it. Don't you want your testosterone? Yeah.
All you have to say is something with the balls, and they're like, oh my God, like, no, block it all. I mean, they're very sensitive about that. So.
Yes.
You gotta find the right conversation.
Exactly. You really do. I do just want to mention, I have been putting my phone on airplane mode when I sleep. And I do just want to mention for any iPhone users that your alarm still does work if your phone's on airplane mode. So like if you use it for an alarm, I didn't know if it was like, I was like, maybe I'll wake up tomorrow, maybe I won't. But
good test. Good test. Yeah. And then that's the other thing, airplane mode. So if you are wearing some kind of sleep tracker or gadget, ideally you want to get one that you can put in airplane mode. So like the BioStrap, the Aura Ring, just it's not a lot, but just if you can put it in airplane mode, I'm like, it's one more thing that you can take control of. Why not?
Sure.
Versus like the Apple Watch, I would assume you probably can't put that in airplane mode. So things like that.
And that's such a great point about EMFs and really any stressors in our environment. All of these companies will say that they're safe for you because in very small doses, perhaps they're safe. But when we look at the total list of exposures and accumulations, in the functional health world, we have this analogy. We have the bucket theory. And if your bucket gets too full of these stressors, then it spills over. And that's when we have health symptoms, challenges, syndromes, diagnoses, chronic, yada, yada, yada. So it really does make a difference to eliminate even a very small exposure because it's going to keep your bucket from overflowing. It's really, really important. The phone companies are not going to tell you because they're like, oh, if you only are exposed to your cell phone, you're going to be okay. Well, that's just not the reality in the world that we live in. So we have to be really educated consumers and think bigger than that. The company's not going to tell you. The food industry is definitely not going to tell you. And I know that's not EMFs, but just in terms of stressors and toxins, they're not going to tell you. They don't have your health in their best interest.
I'm so glad you said that. And I love the bucket analogy, especially because, you know, if you flag any of these things as, you know, a health professional, you tend to get a lot of kickback about like, oh, these things in small doses. These things in small doses are totally fine. And all the science shows these things in small doses are fine. And that may be the case, but not, you're so right that often we don't look at the total amount of pesticides plus EMF plus like all these things together. It's not small amounts anymore. And so taking it in a vacuum and saying, yeah, but this one thing is just fine because you're not taking it anywhere near what it would need to be harmful. It's like, okay, but did you look at the rest of my day?
Yeah.
Right. Like how about your personal care products? So people think, well, if it's on the store shelf, it must be safe. Because it has, you know, again, the small dose, but it's like, but they forgot that you're using a face cleanser and then a serum and an eye cream and a moisturizer and shampoo and conditioner and body lotion and makeup, blah, 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 blah. Then how much of that one chemical that's now toxic are you getting?
It's a lot of crap.
It's a lot of crap.
Wild. And it's a 17-step skin routine because like I'm 39. So I've been told like the number of years old, that's how many steps in your skin routine. So it's like, it's a lot of stuff.
I'm still figuring out the whole face care thing. I think I'm only a year older than you, but I'm still like, wait, what does this serum do? But you know,
well, that's I'm asking that too. I don't know what it does. I'm just putting it on. Put more serums.
More.
Oh my God. Maybe less. Do less.
Removing is maybe the best thing for our skin. And this could feel potentially very far apart, but something like fasting, we have to dose it right to the bio individual. And particularly for females, we want to make sure it's paired with the menstrual cycle so we're not harming our hormones. But fasting is so therapeutic for so many of the symptoms and challenges that we have because fasting allows the body to go into a deeper period of healing. So we get a microbiome reset, we get stem cell rejuvenation, we get an immune system reboot. So for pain, injuries, GI dysfunction, mental health disorders, all the things, removing food is actually potentially one of the best things we could do if it's done strategically. I just always want to add that disclaimer.
So important. And you guys both know when fasting hit the mainstream and it was the it thing to do, and this was the weight loss magic pill. And we had a lot of people do, I don't want to say doing it incorrectly, doing the one size fits all version of fasting and then having, really not desirable results. And so, I think there's so many aspects of biohacking that fit that same thing. Whereas, like, this might be great, but we need to figure out for you how it's going to work in your lifestyle. That's it's so important. I want to talk to you guys for a second about biomarkers, because we have a lot of ladies who are going to healthcare professionals for certain symptoms and are getting turned away with normal blood work. You have normal blood work, so there's nothing wrong with you, crazy lady. Go away because insurance doesn't cover it. I want to allow you guys to give our listeners potentially some more biomarkers that they could be looking for from their healthcare professionals, that they could be asking for, i.e. demanding, when you are suffering from sort of unexplained symptoms and you've got normal blood work.
I would say the best starting place is to find someone, a practitioner that will look at your current blood work through a more functional lens. So that's just tightening up the ranges, because our ranges are based on a wide sick population. They include all the people rather than looking at what's optimal. So we can take the same set of biomarkers, look at it through a different lens, and get a totally different narrative. So I would say that's step one. And that would be just your basic CBC, CMP, so complete blood cell count, and your comprehensive metabolic panel, which is a set of 14 markers. Tells you a lot in terms of hydration, adrenals, stress response, gut function, absorption of minerals. And we can start making some changes just based on that, just with lifestyle alone, not even with supplements. And then some additional markers that I would like to add on beyond that. If your A1C is not run, definitely do that, but that's becoming a little more mainstream, I would say. Insulin as a step beyond that, so looking at the actual hormone that's directing your glucose. Homocysteine, which is can be a measure of methylation, but also just general inflammation, really, really important. A lot of people are struggling with that. Vitamin D, also kind of like A1C. Some people are doing it, some are not. Vitamin D goes down in the presence of inflammation. We know inflammation is the root of all chronic disease. And so we really need to understand that story that's being told in the body. A full iron panel, and I would say a full thyroid panel. And I could talk forever about this, but that'll be kind of the minimum. I'll start there.
Yeah, that's a great list. I'll just tag on with the full thyroid panel. This is a huge problem for women because, again, they go in like, I think I maybe have a thyroid problem because I have dry skin, my hair's falling out, I can't lose weight. And the doctors say, okay, we'll check your thyroid. They run TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. That comes back in the range, and they say your thyroid is fine. That is just what your brain is telling your thyroid to do. That's not looking at all of the other pieces of the thyroid. So if you suspect you have a thyroid issue, I would say make sure you're getting a full thyroid panel. That's a big one. And then, Laura, I'm glad you mentioned like A1C, glucose, insulin. These are so important because like metabolic health is health, and we can learn so much from these markers. And it's fine. Traditional medicine, they were taught to look for example, like pre-diabetes and diabetes. If you're not at that level yet, they're just not going to flag it because they don't know how to treat you if you're almost pre-diabetic. If you're 0.1 away from being pre-diabetic, they don't know what to tell you because they're not trained in nutrition and lifestyle. So they're going to wait till you cross over that line, which could be the next day, week, month, year. And then they'll say, oh, now we can put you on a medication for that. So it's just, again, finding the practitioner that's going to look for the warning signs of what direction are you headed before you get that diagnosis. Because I can tell you it's way easier to prevent all of these things than to reverse them.
Yes.
So I think, yeah, you just hit on such an important thing about Western medicine that I think people are really kind of like learning about now is, proactive versus reactive. And that so much of our medicine and our techniques are just reactive when that's the much harder path. And if people sort of knew what to look for when it came to being proactive. But I mean, it's a full ass time job. I mean, we don't have degrees in this. That's what I'm saying. Like, we need to know what to look for and what to ask for, because otherwise we're only getting flagged when it's already a problem.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I just wanted to add on, particularly with the full thyroid panel, this is really important. You want to get the antibodies in there. So many women are struggling with autoimmunity. Autoimmunity is essentially when your body is attacking itself. And we can get that from a lot of things, but it tends to be quite environmental. It's our environment and our relationship to stress. And then it's our genetic predispositions, but it's the environment and the stress that really kind of pull the trigger on that. And so it could be something as simple as, if you have high antibodies, if you're not at minimum cutting out gluten, you are going to be fighting an uphill battle with autoimmunity. That is a bucket that is over full. And so again, we have to remove the stressors, but gluten, and that's just one example, is a huge stressor to that. But if you don't get your antibodies tested because your doctor's only looking at TSH, no one's ever going to tell you to do that. So you're like, well, I'll take, maybe they give you Synthroid, but you keep eating gluten, dairy, all of the things that create this molecular mimicry and inflammation in your body. And you have mercury amalgam fillings and you have mold exposure, but you're on the thyroid med, you're not going to get any progress. You may have symptom management, but you're not actually going to remove the source and the stressor and create a healing path.
Symptom management versus, I mean, isn't that everything? It's just like this. I don't want this in a manageable place where it's like only minorly disruptive to my life. I want to know why, and I want to fix the source. And maybe we could just have like a teeny, I know it's not appropriate to ever have a teeny discussion on gut health, but because it's like I would think that this is getting a little bit more play now. But if there was sort of one universal sort of implementation that you could tell people to maximize their gut health, what would you say to people who are like, maybe they don't have symptoms, but like specific gut symptoms, because that's the only thing, right, we pay attention to, but maybe just like, what are we looking at as far as maximizing gut health and how that affects our whole being?
We won't give you one. It's impossible. Go ahead, Renee.
Well, but I think just to start with the idea of like root cause medicine, like, so even if your diagnosis is MS or a thyroid issue or cancer or heart disease, whatever, that's just like where your body's weakest link was. And maybe it was genetically, but you ultimately, most of these people still have to come back and do the same things. And one of those things is improving gut health. Like, disease begins in the gut. We've all heard that a million times. No matter what the diagnosis is, you have to look at gut health. So important there. I would think, or I would say, just like, if I can pick one thing, be mindful how you're chewing your food. Turning off the TV, maybe sitting down and having like a social meal, chewing your food like 30 times, and like take some deep breaths before you eat your food. So getting your body into a parasympathetic, happy state and chew your food. That's totally like a free biohack. And most people aren't doing it, right? They're driving down the highway, like shoving food down on the phone. Your body and your digestive system is going to be like, F you. You want me to digest this food right now? Are you kidding me? Like, I'm like,
sent it down in chunks this big.
Yeah.
What do you want me to do with this?
Yeah. And all of the blood flow is in my extremities in case I have to run right now. Like, why would I digest this food? And then so people get, so many issues just from that. So that's my one gut health tip, if I had to pick one.
I'll try to narrow it to two, and maybe it's a little linked to what you said, but I think maybe the most important thing is get a hold of your stress, because like Renee said, we need to shift into parasympathetic when we're stressed and in that fight or flight sympathetic, which most of us are in a lot of the time. And even if you're not like currently stressed by lifestyle, job, kids, you could be chronically sympathetic from like a past stressor or trauma, and your nervous system and your vagus nerve is still like running that program. And when we're under that stress, what happens is that your gut becomes permeable. It's a survival mechanism. A lot of us have heard of leaky gut. It's a survival mechanism to send resources to the places that we need it. So your gut becomes leaky so that you can use electrolytes like sodium and glucose in case you need to run away from the modern day tiger. Ideally, our body, when the stressor ends, the gut reseals itself. It's capable of doing that. The problem is that most of us have so many stressors, just like the bucket filling with toxins, that it stays open all the time. We're always kind of leaky. And so then you're not absorbing your nutrients. So if you're spending a lot of money on supplements, like stop that now because you're throwing money down the drain. Get your stress under control so that your gut can naturally heal. There's a lot in there. Sometimes we need to bring in nutraceuticals to do the healing, heal the gut lining, support the microbiome with particular species of bacteria. But address your stress. I know it's easier said than done, but like get to know yourself and figure out what it is. Like have a reality check and figure out what it is that you need. The second thing, I'm going to come back to fasting because I think our body is a natural healing machine. And if we give it some downtime from food, if it's not busy digesting and balancing blood sugar, then it actually can heal itself. A lot of us open our mouths like way too many times in a day. We think like, oh, we eat 3 meals, but I had a bite of that and I had a bite of that and then I had a sip of this. And we're eating over an extended period of time. So really getting kind of closing those windows and having a period where there's nothing coming in so that your body can heal. And you'll have a much more optimal gut health state if you can do that. So downtime and manage stress.
I love that. I think that's a great place that is so accessible for people to start. And, because there is unlimited supplements and information regarding gut health and all of the, different ways that you can spend money to heal your gut. But I think that those are really insightful. You guys, this was wonderful.
This is
was
fun.
a lot of fun.
We love talking about health. It's like, can we just do this all the time?
I mean, it just feels like, I'm personally leaving with so many actionable tips and just so much armed with so much more knowledge. And I know our listeners are as well. Where can we hear more from you guys? Where do we find you?
Yeah, so we have our own podcast called the Biohacker Babes. We've been running for 5 years and we release a new episode every Monday. We do have guest experts, but we do our own episodes as well because we're practitioners and we like to share client wins and talk through the research and share our own stuff as well. So podcast on the website is thebiohackerbabes.com. We're on Instagram, the biohacker_babes, and we have our personal pages, which I don't know if they can go in the show notes because of a long name.
They're long.
Lauren Sambataro,
we'll squeeze them.
Renee Belz. Yeah, on Instagram.
Yeah. Thank you both so much, Renee, Lauren. An amazing episode. I appreciate you guys taking the time. And also, congratulations, sisters, on 5 years of a podcast. I know it goes into 5 years of a podcast, and it is a really amazing feat. So congratulations to you guys. You guys are doing amazing work in the field. And thank you for being with us today.
Thank you too. We're so grateful for you and fun to find other sisters podcasts.
And I want to say also a special thank you for doing your biohacking series. I just love that you're helping spread the message about biohacking, and you guys are just awesome. I love that you're sisters too. It's super fun. So
thank you, girls.
Thank you.